What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Comment Writers. We are a Kamen Rider review podcast. Today we're going to talk about Kamen Rider Gotchard episode 49. I'm your host, Josh Meek, the Uber Geek, and I'm joined as always by my good friend, Toby Tobes. How's it going, Toby?
Josh, not well, because I don't even know what the fuck the show is doing anymore.
Our show, Kamen Rider.
The Kamen Rider Gotchard television show.
We're ending. It's ending next week. That's what's happening.
I know, but like...
Are you first of all, are you talking about Kamen Rider within the first seconds of this show? This is unprecedented.
I am. I'm so lost and confused by this that I'm not even going to bring up a funny joke right now.
What are you lost and confused by?
I'm just so thrown by what we're doing here.
Like, because you're back? Because you're not missing?
No, just the show. What like the plot with one episode to go is so stupid and wild.
Really? This is gonna be a fun discussion. I liked it. I thought the plot was amazing.
I mean, it's mostly good. It's just weird.
Just in terms of like what they're setting up, you mean? Like the beats they're hitting?
Yeah.
We'll
do it this way. Let's do this show first, and if I think of a goofy question by the end, we're gonna flip it.
Okay, show first.
We'll do the show first.
Show first.
We're gonna memento.
Yeah, we're going full memento on it. I'm gonna write Toby a note, but in reverse, and I'm gonna say, "Don't trust the bald guy."
Why does it have to be about me? Why we gotta start firing off at me right away? I didn't do anything. I didn't make the show.
You're right. I don't know. I was just trying to make it memento. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. Let's do the whole show in reverse. Let's talk about the episode first, and then we'll do emails and stuff at the end. Let's go completely backwards.
Yeah. So if you want to find me on the internet, you can find me at.
Yeah, go ahead and tell them. I won't circle back to that at the end.
All right. If you want to find me on the internet, on Twitter, it's at Life of Tobes. On YouTube, it's Tobes Plays. And if you want to follow my adventures on Retro Achievements, it's Tobes Plays there as well.
You can find me at Pretty Deece Josh on Twitter and at Pretty Deece on YouTube. Maybe you're there right now. And of course, check out our Patreon, Toby, patreon.com/the Comment Writers. If you want more of this, that's the place to get it. $3 a month gets you our bonus content. We are watching through Boon Boomjer. We are watching through Kamen Rider O's right now. It's kind of like Mystery Science Theater, but for tokusatsu. Super fun. It also gets you on our Discord. So we have a lot of fun over there. And we'd love to have you on the Patreon. So once again, patreon.com/the Comment Writers. Toby, let's jump it right into the episode. Here we go. This is unprecedented. Everyone out there in listener land, go ahead and I don't know, do you need to switch shoes because we're doing a reverse day or something? Everyone wear your shirt backwards.
I feel like some young upstarts are gonna pop into Audacity and just flip this episode so it sounds right.
I hope when they play it backwards, I'm saying like Toby is the devil or something like that over and over again. What happens when you play the Comment Writers backwards? Josh just has mean satanic things to say about Toby the whole time.
I feel like with the way that our luck runs with such things, like if you play this episode backwards specifically, there's just gonna be the worst words in there somehow.
Yeah,
and we're just gonna be shut down.
Josh and Toby get canceled.
Yeah, for no reason. They said cheese, pickles, cucumbers, and when we played that backwards, it was a really bad word. I'm not gonna repeat it. But you know what? We shouldn't listen. Everyone should listen to this ever again.
I like that you had an example, but then didn't have a reverse example. You just you didn't go so far as to have the reversed horrible word you're saying.
Well, and I also thought of random words that I felt like off the top of my head wouldn't reverse to something bad.
Oh, okay.
Because then that would be my double actual luck. Yeah. So I'm in my double actual luck. I just double checked in my head. Cheese backwards would be eek or something like that.
Wow, you can't say that on a podcast.
Right. And then in my head I panicked because I was like, what if cheese backwards actually does sound like something bad?
What if? There are so many bad words nowadays, Toby. There are probably lots of slurs that we don't even know, you and I. We could stumble into them by just making random noises.
That sounds terrifying. I like that even though we tried to reverse the episode, it's been double reversed now.
Yeah.
And we've once again found this sweet spot of talking about the dumbest bullshit up front.
We're sorry. Kamen Rider Gotchard, episode 49. Toby, this is the penultimate episode. I love anytime I get to use the word penultimate.
I like that word too.
Thank
It
you.
also it almost doesn't sound like it should mean the second to last.
You're right. I agree with this statement.
But I don't know what number or like what ranking I think it should sound like then. I just don't think it sounds like number two or like second to last. But I don't know why.
Well, like ultimate is the last, right? So then penultimate is the one before that. But you know how
But like, but when the, how does the prefix pen mean before?
I don't know. I don't know anything about
Like it's
prefixes or
prologue. Like if it was the pro ultimate episode,
pro ultimate.
that would
Either
make more.
way, either way, like in video games, in anything, like if something is name and then you tack something on to the beginning of the name, usually that means it's an upgraded form, right? Like, oh, I'm like Mega Man, and like, oh, I'm Super Mega Man. Like you're better than Mega Man was, right? So
Yeah,
I feel like penultimate should be better than ultimate because it's got the word tacked on in the beginning.
yeah. Like if Gotchard has ultimate form, and they're like, "Oh shit, he got mad. Now it's his penultimate form." That
It
would make
sounds,
more sense.
yeah, it sounds bigger. I agree.
So according to whatever membean.com is, the word pen is a prefix that means almost or nearly. So it's actually it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
It also means head in Celtic. So I don't know how that were the. Oh, I guess like almost coming to a head.
Oh God.
Pen. I don't know. So
Hmm.
Gotchard.
Yeah. So this episode is our big focal point on Spanner, basically. So last week around, if you weren't here for the discussion, we got the final form for Kudo for Kamen Rider Majade. I believe Twilight Majade was the name of that form. So we're getting the secondary and tertiary rider forms pretty late here in this season. Normally you would have had them a little bit before this, and they could fight with their new forms for a little bit at least. But here, not so much. So much so, in fact, that we got Kudo's form last episode, and this episode it doesn't even make an appearance because she says she's out of power. So, yeah, here we're getting
And not even
Spanner's
that.
form.
Like I feel like there was never one time where they acted like the rings had to recharge.
They did for Kudo a bunch because remember that was their justification for why she showed up in the movie, but then didn't show up in the show for a while because she kept being like, "Oh, I'm still recovering" or whatever. Like she kept
Okay,
making references like that. And then finally it was like, my power's back. I can transform again. Remember how I could do that before that one time? Remember? Yeah. So that was the only other time that they've really touched on it in the show.
gotcha.
But yeah, so here, of course, last we saw Spanner was the big fight with Hodoro, and now we find that he is still in Kudo's dad's workshop, and he's working on repairing his driver, essentially.
He's running a number station, and the government found him.
The numbers, Mason. The numbers, Spanner. Toby, I was hanging out with some normies the other day, and I made a the numbers Mason reference, and no one knew what I was talking about, and I felt like the biggest like nerd weirdo in the room.
As
It
you
wasn't
should.
it wasn't good. I I thought that I lived in a world where people might know what the numbers Mason means, and no one did. But I've taken some chances with that group before with some like weird esoteric references, and they've landed. But this one did not stick, unfortunately. But yes, we are in the number station. Spanner is trying, but kind of failing to fix his driver, and Lachesis comes to see him, Toby. And
His favorite
uh
little not human sister.
they're very cute together. I like their I guess yeah, we'll just talk about their like relationship kind of as a whole, because like at the end of this they sort of hint because spoiler, she dies. Um
Yeah, what the
they
fuck is the show?
well, at the end, like like she dies at the end, and then we get the whole her dream was to fall in love, and I thought that they've tried to really put these two together recently, and they were a little ham-fisted with it the very first time, with Kyoka being like, maybe Spanner, what do you think? um
This was even worse.
Really?
I was extra irritated with it because again, like other than the throwaway line of "Oh, you should fall in love. Maybe go sleep with your fake brother." Like other than that, there has been no real like it seemed like a nice brother and sister thing. It seemed
Yeah.
like Luke and Leia before we knew that they were like weird incesty kissing. Like the same vibe. Like they're pals. He was her like her cool moral standpoint, because why would you want to follow Hodoro kind of thing.
Yeah.
So then like her when she was like, you remember my dying wish, and then they show her like zoning out in normal street clothes and like, I want to fall in love, and then like she grabs his hand. I was so irritated because again, so weirdly unearned, and just like, oh, we're just gonna throw us in there since she's dying. We'll just say like, oh yeah, her and Spanner were in love.
Yeah.
And then I thought about it after I watched it while I was making dinner, because this show on these days just lives rent free in my head for hours.
Uh-huh.
Now have more questions. Like, was Spanner's mom just trying to make her turn human, and was like, love is one of the things you need to be human. By
Oh.
the way, I'm just going to guide you towards a cool single guy.
Oh,
Like, she didn't actually want her. Like Lachesis doesn't know better because she's
yeah.
not human, and she was just like, oh well, like to unlock 1/5 of your powers, like you need a boyfriend. Go find a boyfriend, I guess. And she just pointed to Spanner to get it done. So she didn't actually want her to fall in love. She just
Oh
tricked
man.
her. She
I
played 4D chess with the dead girl.
I like that as a fan theory that it's like man, like, it could be both too, right? Like the professor could truly want her to like find love and want her, to experience that, but like also from a self-serving thing, it's like, well, my experiment right now is making you human, and this is like, I know from an empirical measurement, I know that inserting love into the equation makes you human faster. So I'm gonna do that from just a very like cold clinical standpoint.
Well, yeah, because
Uh,
even like at some point they did the weird. Hyoko was doing like the scientific thing and had like the full body scan going,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
feel
yeah,
like it was around the same time as the love reveal, and it just made it just clicked in my head of like, I feel like we should just run science on this girl.
yeah. I think you're right. I
I
think that's
think
a
I'm
good
right
one.
too.
Yeah. So the thing that I didn't hate about this, because yeah, I agree that we're not to the point of their actual interactions in the show where love is warranted between these two. I agree that it is much more like brother sister, like that vibe. Good friends, confidant, that sort of like level, but not like romantic level. I didn't think they'd earned that.
It did,
But
but it didn't even have to be. Like no matter what, it didn't have to be, and I think that's the part that pisses me off more.
sure. Yeah, that's fair. If you want to make that argument, I would agree with you 100% that like, why did a relationship between a man and a woman have to be hinted at to be romantic? Like it could just be these two care about each other a lot because of circumstances and because of, things they've gone through, and let them just be that. Um but that's kind of why I didn't hate this ending, because she wants to find love, right? She says love, she doesn't say I want to love you. She says I wanted to find love.
And then
And
they
then
flashed at them doing passing
yeah,
handhold glances for no reason.
exactly. So again, in a similar fan theory, I'm going to think in my head that her vision was just of him because he's just a guy she knows. He's like the only guy who has been presented to her in a maybe love potential, and she just is basically a tiny little baby human who doesn't have any other experiences in her life. So obviously, if you want love, and this is the only guy that you've become close to in your short lifespan, you're gonna imagine him as the thing you eventually love. Um, so like,
Much like I think my theory is out there and it's me just making up stories, I think you're giving the show entirely too much
yeah, I think I am
credit.
too. Like, I think this whole time they wanted you to think that these two were gonna get together, and then this was their way of being like, oh look, they totally would have. But I don't know. I think there's an alternate read on it where it is a bit more like hopeful of the human condition or something. uh
I I thought it was kind of funny is probably the wrong word. I thought it was kind of funny that he like reverse wedding veiled her when she died and like covered her
he
face
did.
back up with her little gothic sash.
Yes. From whence she came. she she was a goth girl. She dreamed of being in a white dress, no longer a goth girl, but now she's dead. So back to the goth with her. Um, I did like their interaction here in this opening scene, because he's like, "Well, how'd you find me?" Because he talks like Batman, and she's like, "I didn't know where to go, but I just went through like every single place. I'm exhausted." She had like a list where she scratched out all the things. That was pretty good. Spanner basically explains that he can't asks Kyoka to make a new driver for him because his existing driver was based on Hotaro's driver. However, he needs a more powerful driver that can unlock his like full potential. So he doesn't want that one again because he'll blow it up, basically. I love that as an idea, being like, yeah, that's not gonna work for me anymore. We got to upgrade. Let's keep it going.
I've been working out so hard that my tank top doesn't fit anymore. If you put me back in this, I'm just gonna explode out of it.
Exactly. And then we get, I think, what's my least favorite scene in the episode, which is we cut over to Hodoro and crew, and we have Amalgam who's shown up kind of like completely unprompted. It's just one of the bad guys who can turn into Amalgams, basically, when you used to be one and then turned into one again. So we start to handle business when basically a bunch of people show up to watch. Hodoro first is like, oh, this feels off. And then come to find out, basically, these people are like, you suck, get out of here, we don't want you. Trying to yell about getting rid of all the chemis and how they want the Kamen Riders to die, basically.
And then, of course, there's some little fan in the background that like throws their voice and like, they're not all bad. Don't hurt them.
Yeah.
From on screen, just
It's giving Black Sun to me. This whole like people in the street being like screw you mutants, get out of here. It's very X-Men, it's very Kamen Rider Black Sun. It's that whole vibe. They've done this whole like the people turn on the chemis storyline pretty quickly. So having just like the general population being a mob that screams about chemis, it didn't really feel like we like super needed that as a as a turn here, but um, it did give us a chance though, Toby, to have some returns. So we did get a couple people, like you said, the one girl being like, "No, the chemis are great, and the Kamen Riders are good." They were that was the X-Rex girl and her dad, I think, is who those people were.
Another episode full of throwbacks to the beginning of the season.
Yep,
as well.
Yeah, because then we got Kajiki came out in support, of course, and then with him was the girl who was in the Romeo and Juliet episodes. So even her was like, "Oh, hey, they're good people. You guys listen to them. It's all good."
And like this whole scene and the whole, like, first of all, it seems weird that minus people that were actually like saved by Hodoro and crew. Like, even if you were like, if chemis dropped outside my house today, and we'll say there's 10 people on my block, I refuse to believe that 9 out of 10 would be like, yo, fuck these little monsters, and just like the random one off would be like, no, they're kind of cool. Like, it seems insane to me that we'll call their little town 1,000 people or wherever they live, since we never really like specifically localize where they are. Out of the 1,000 people that live in the Chemi City here, it feels like 995 of them all hate these kids and all hate chemis whatsoever.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's no logic behind why they all just hate them. Because obviously the people that have memories now will remember the times that these kids saved them. Along with like, hey, there's this little grasshopper that talks, that runs around. That's pretty cool.
Well,
or like, hey, there's this motorcycle. Like, I feel like there's everyone just hates them. And it doesn't seem like that would be the natural response. Or maybe it would.
Everyone hates them because they know, like, they don't just know, hey, there's these cute little animals bouncing around. They know that, like, there are these animals bouncing around that then turn humans into evil monsters, right? Like, it's the amalgams tied to the chemis that has everybody freaking out, I think. Because also this was all presented. So even if you don't have direct knowledge of it, like you don't have a memory that returned, they all saw that like YouTube reporter or whatever that was like showing the amalgam attacks and stuff. So
memories being stolen. We'll talk about tonight on the news at 10 o'clock, along with your 5-day forecast.
Yeah, totally. So you're telling me if like Fox News wasn't like, hey, those cool new creatures that are outside your 10 people's houses are monsters, then you tell me those 10 people wouldn't suddenly hate those cute animals? They would hate them.
I don't know.
This is unparalleled faith in humanity I'm hearing from you right now.
No, but I'm really just tied to the whole the cute monsters thing. and
Yeah.
like there's a good chunk of animals. Like it's sure, like if the fire truck drives down the street, that would probably piss me off depending on the time. But I feel like cute, adorable animals usually win over even the darkest of hearts.
I'm going to be straight with you. I think I'm going to pick the cutest one of all, Hopper one. I think if everyone on my street saw a giant mechanical grasshopper hopping down the road, we would have like the army would get called. Like every single person would be terrified. There would be like a gun drawn. Someone would be out trying to catch it with a big giant cage or something. Like it would be a happening.
Why do you gotta do him dirty and call him mechanical?
I mean, he is, right? Look at Hopper One. He's mechanical.
No, he's just a giant fucking grasshopper.
Doesn't he have like
There
he
was
has
a
like
giant grasshopper in my backyard the other day that was easily like 6 inches fat, and I was going to try to take a picture of him. And he ran away from me. Like instinct says, big, weird looking animals. I want to see that thing. I refuse to believe that people would hate these damn animals.
I'm looking at Hopper One. He's damned mechanical. He's got like lines on his face and hands that are like clearly intended to be like molded plastic, like the sort of
That's
metal
because they have to
lines.
use a toy, Josh. You're
No,
over.
it's like the metal lines of the Kamen Rider mask. Like he's supposed to look like the Kamen Rider mask because he's got the eyes and stuff. He literally has like metal claws on the back. He's very metallic.
I don't know about this.
And then if you look at his card too, I don't know if you remember what his card looks like. He's in like attack position, so his belly's out, and you can see where all the arms hook in, and like it's very like exoskeleton metal looking. He's a terrifying beast. Hopper One is.
All right, I'm looking at the card. I don't know how I feel about this still, but I'll allow it.
All right. We'll say Hopper One.
Just so we can politely move the show along. I will agree to disagree.
All right, I'll stop bringing up examples then. I was moving on to Steamliner next, and that was going to be the coup de grace.
If this fucking train came rolling down your street, you would be so goddamn mad.
Yeah. So the gang has to run off when the crowd is hating on them. Then we cut back to the lab, and Spanner's asking Lachesis how her becoming human is going. She's like, I'm in the final stages now. Like it's going pretty good. And Spanner's like, well, get out of here. Quit wasting your time watching me and go become human.
Just gotta finish falling in love.
last thing to check off the box is get me a man.
Look at you bleeding human blood. I've never been so excited.
How dare they make me bleed my own blood? And then Toby Giggist shows up. He randomly pops in to the laboratory there, which I thought was cool because like Spanner clearly jumps up and it's like, whoa, holy shit. You can just come in here?
Everyone found me.
Yeah, totally. I shouldn't have left my door unlocked. Spanner henshins, a fight happens. We take it outside. Eventually Spanner's overpowered here. He dehensions. Lachesis comes up to attempt to, transform and help him out. But Gigas kind of shoots her hand, and Spanner then has to kind of whisk them away to safety. So she's willing to step up and fight for Spanner, but they had to get away before they got to that point. Then Toby, we cut over and we get a scene with Garion. Hodoro, they were asking like how things were at home with all the angry mob, and Hodoro was worried about his mom. So they encourage him to run home. He runs home, and when he gets into the kitchen Ichinose, he finds Garion alone in the dark, waiting for him.
It was a very nice vibe.
It was.
He said he was singing up a nice little moonlit serenade.
Yeah. He I like that he's like, I can't remember the exact word, but basically Garion's like, you belittled me and I won't stand for it. He was like, everyone loves gold. People like prosperity. Gold's really cool. People like to think about living forever. You piece of shit. How dare you say my gold world's not going to be cool? He seemed personally affronted by Hodoro thinking that gold is dumb. He also like walks back through the kitchen and like rubs some pots and pans and nearly knocks them off a shelf, which also is pretty funny. I find a lot of, for some reason, like the physical things that Garion does to be pretty hilarious. Is like the way that he like looks and twists his body sometimes, and all of his stuff with his cube and like his eyes that he makes, his big faces he makes are just pretty great. I like him a lot. Garion also tells Hodoro here, Toby, that he found someone who was very special to Hodoro, and he, I think he says like erased them or something. Like he's like, or like snuffed out their light or something like that. So,
Yeah, so like, so tied to that comment, like that wasn't. I'm gonna use the word answered. Like that wasn't like clarified or answered this episode, right? Like
I guess he was just
uh,
lying. Yeah,
yeah, like I took it as implying his mom.
it could be his dad.
See that's what I thought too. I
Yeah.
was like, wow, maybe he killed Hodoro's dad, and he's just not gonna tell us.
Once again, if we don't get an answer for that, that's the official comment writers fan theory that Garion was hinting that he killed Hodoro's dad, and that's why we didn't see Hodoro's dad in the finale.
Yeah. So when we actually wrap up the end of this episode, I have a list of unanswered questions that I
Oh,
feel,
good.
or like kind of, you'll see when we get there.
Okay.
It's
All right.
more
All right.
just ramblings of a crazy bald person. I found this note that says never trust the bald guy. So
Uh-huh.
I feel like we might be getting into some dangerous territory here, but we'll have to see.
I just got goosebumps, man.
Jesus Christ.
You tied it back in. It was all amazing. Goddamn professional over there.
Yeah, you know it.
Once again, Hodoro's mom comes in. She's fine. Garion makes a comment
Who's
basically
your
about,
friend?
yeah, Garion's like, oh, your son's helped me out a whole lot. And then he just pieces out. And then Hodoro again has to rush out without being able to explain anything to his mom. The mom kind of acts a little bit more oblivious this time than she did last time. Like I think our conversation about her last time was like, oh, she knows. She knows what's going on, right? Like she's got it. Everyone else in the world knows that Hodoro is Kamen Rider except for his mom. Is what she was putting on last time, but this time she's acting like maybe she doesn't really know, which is funny.
I think this time more than ever made some weird confirmation of like she probably just thinks her son's on drugs.
Yeah, super.
Because now there's some weird creepy old guy hanging out with him in the dark in the restaurant, and then he's like, "Your son has shown me things," and it's kind of like strolls out, and he like his face is all bloody, and she's like, "Oh, are you okay?" He's like, "No, I have to go," and like sprints past her and
And he's
acts like a
like,
damn
I
fool.
promise I'll explain everything to you soon. Like that's also only someone who's in trouble says that.
Like
Yeah, his
if it was a more dramatic media, he walks out saying like, "I'll explain it to you later," and that's like his death flag for the episode. And he's dying before he can tell his mom what he actually meant by that comment.
yeah, true. I thought you were saying in a different medium. He walks out and then you pan down to her cell phone where she's googling drug abuse symptoms on her phone or something.
They never showed her hands, and she had pamphlets of like what to do if your kid's on drugs, how to talk to your child about marijuana,
How to host an intervention. Yeah.
5 signs of intravenous drug use.
Exactly. Next, we cut back over to Spanner. So, because they just escaped from the fight, this is where we get to see that that Lachesis is bleeding her own red blood. She says that it's a sign that she's becoming closer to being human. And this is where Spanner asks what she'd like to do when she's fully human. So here she doesn't tell him. She says he'll have to find out later. But then, of course, when she passes away, she finally tells him that it was to fall in love.
You know what? It didn't click that she alluded to that earlier, and
Oh,
that right there, that should have made me realize she was dying today. I thought after killing off one of the kids last week,
uh-huh.
we did enough mortal damage here, but we apparently have to kill 2 of the sisters now, just
Yeah,
because.
we're getting a body count here for on these sisters. Speaking of the dead sister, Clotho shows up and says like, "Oh my god, Atropo's dead." And then Gigas shows up as well. So we got a lot of people in play here. Gigas is back to just, cause some shit, try to talk to Spanner. And since Clotho is there, she henshins and tries to fight him, but very quickly I think he like teleports her away, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
He like
he just does his wacky magic.
yeah, he like
I
drops her through a portal hole or something.
I'm actually impressed that out of all of the ragey versions of Clotho and trying to get the sisters back together, like there was no remote static towards the hero group today. It was just like, hey, our other sister's dead.
Yeah.
And then that she didn't blame Hodoro, she didn't blame Kudo, she didn't blame any of them. She was just sad about it. And that leads into like more sadness later. And she gets pissed, obviously. But like again, like she's not mad at the hero group. So like obviously we effectively finished up, like I know we're gonna like finish it next week. But effectively we finished her arc of Hodoro saying we could be friends, we could be on the same team, we don't have to be like this. And
Yeah.
we've gotten now to the ending here where they nicely wrapped up like, okay, she's gonna be friends with them now because there's no reason not to. Like she now obviously recognizes they are not the problem here.
Yeah. And she should also recognize, yeah, like she should have a different view of Kudo at this point, at the very least, after everything she saw last time. So yeah, like yeah, I like that too. That she's sad, she's distraught, but then like directing all that anger at Giggist instead of at the friends. Once again, Lachesis is trying to hench in here. Spanner stops her, and he says he's gonna fight for both of them. And he fights. He is oh, I forgot to mention he's also like old school Valvarad for this too. It was cool to get to see like the original form of that again. Since his driver's broken, he had to use the old school method of henching. So yeah, he's been original Valvarad.
I'm impressed that like they wrapped it. I mean, they basically wrapped a bunch of wires around a driver. Like they just cut the back. I'm pretty sure they just cut the back or took the plastic off the back. Because if you actually look at it,
It's got the
like
PCB, yeah.
like you can see the boards and stuff. There's a plain ass USB cable hooked up in the back of it that you can just look
Perfect.
at. Like they literally just pulled a toy apart and then just rewrapped the wires around it, and we're like, look, we hacked it back together. And it reminds me of, I think they were called afterburners, when you could mod your old Game Boy Advance to put lights in it yourself so you could play it in the dark.
Oh
And
yes.
I remember, I am 99% sure there was wires hanging out of it still. Like there was no graceful way to hide the wires. And I feel like you would always see the wires. That's all I could think of.
I think I remember seeing the wires like because a lot of people had the like clear Game Boys, and you'd be able to see like the extra wires like jamming up against the shell. I remember that for sure. Because I think the original Afterburner kits, um, like it also like bled really bad through the shell too if you had the clear shell. But that's that's great. Yeah, just like this weird, this weird like hodgepodge. We got these wires coming out. It's fine though. I thought that looked good. I liked the like messed up, soldered together driver that he had
Oh
going
yeah,
on.
yeah. I mean, definitely, it definitely looked awesome. Like without a ton of words, it was very obvious to see and tell like what the vibe was here of like, no, look, like he had to hack it back together because what else is he gonna do here?
Yep, exactly. Um, Unfortunately, he gets dehensioned again. Giggist is just too powerful, and then he does black flames in the ground going towards Spanner, and this is where we get Spanner contemplating to himself in his brain, I guess. It's
Monologuing his demise.
yeah, exactly. It's depicted as kind of being in this like blank void, but yeah, exactly, monologuing his demise. And it's sort of him like replaying what's been happening. It's kind of framed around the fact that like the black flames he originally viewed as like pure evil because of like they were associated with his parents dying, and they were associated with the professor getting hurt, and they came from Giggist, that he thought that like, oh, for sure they're super evil. um, and then he thought that the only way to use the evil was basically to like succumb to it. But then he talks about, Gigas tells him the brighter the light, the darker the abyss. But that means that like the darker the abyss, the brighter the light. So then basically the answer is he learned from all of his friends how to do things the nice way. So now he's going to use white fire instead of black flames.
And the whole presentation of his form, starting with the anime ass splash screen, like he's a Smash Brothers character that just unlocked, to how the whole new costume looks. I 100% think like Silver Surfer Spanner here
Yeah.
is without doubt the coolest costume this season.
Yeah, it's really good. It's very Iron Man-esque for me because he makes like mechanical noises when he moves. It's obviously very shiny like Iron Man. And when you get the vision from inside the helmet, he's got all these like targeting reticles and other things like measuring stuff constantly. So it looks very much like Iron Man's like heads up display.
Well, I even thought it was cool that like I think he's still supposed to be like a car engine or that vibe because they even stamped a logo on his chest that was like burnt in
Yeah.
as part of his like little introduction scene. Like, oh look, he's here. So like all I could think of was like purely like, okay, he's like a souped up engine now. Basically, he has all the pieces here, but like all the all the fight stuff, all the cool silver flames with the purple, like definitely a very cool looking CG flashy fight with that stuff. Obviously, he's a super badass
Yeah.
in this new form. It's a good time.
It's really good. Yeah, I love that especially the mask. I love that it is like bare metal. Like it looks super hardcore. It looks like he's got like motorcycle tailpipes coming out of his head or something. Like just with the way that they're um kind of done. It's very cool. So his big speech, I liked his big speech too. That's like they have to do something sort of hand wavy for him to have his shonen anime moment where he powers up. But I thought that the his explanation was good, where basically it's like I thought I had to contain the darkness, but instead I can rely on my friends and I can rely on the light to repel the darkness. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean that's straight out of Kingdom Hearts when Riku goes through all that shit. So I agree.
Oh no.
I'm running out of time, Josh. I'm running out of time.
Are we all? Hodoro wants to henshin too, but Spanner basically is like, nah, I got this myself, little bro.
and even like I feel like part of their before we get too far away from it, I feel like even part of his acceptance speech when he was in the little void thing, like it was still the at least the way I took it was him and Hodoro still have the different like still have like their paths
Yep,
still split, but he recognizes it like that's a good thing. Like yes, we split, but that doesn't mean we can't still do the same thing effectively. And like he tweaked his feelings just enough
just
to
enough.
make it like a cool hero arc of like, no, like we both have our own ways and that's fine. But like those two paths can still be the same path. They don't actually have to be like conflicting ones.
Yeah, because his line, I think, when he was fighting Hodoro was like, "Our paths won't converge anymore," and then this time he's like, "Our paths won't converge," but essentially they can kind of be heading the same direction. Like we can still have the same goal even if our paths aren't converging. And that was cool. Yeah, I liked that as a transformation of, he thought he was doing the kind of big brother protect everyone thing last time, when all this was happening. But really now he's realizing like, no, the big brother thing is putting aside differences, even if, it doesn't fit your perfect ideal and, still working on the same goal, still being friends. Uh, that's cool. I like that a lot. He credits his the creators of his White Flame too in the middle of that because he's like, it's like I learned from my Professor Kyoka, like I learned from whoever, like I learned from Hodoro. He has a moment of just like, yeah, I guess I'll say Hodoro too. Giggist is just like instantly taken aback here, like full on like, oh, this is this is I can't handle this. This is the evolution of the Black Flames, and he gets taken out pretty simply. Um, Spanner has the double Valvarad swords. He embeds both of them into Giggist's chests, and then he double rider kicks them. That was a pretty cool ending.
Yeah, like that version of the finisher was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, really hardcore. um, let's see. Everyone is kind of cheering Spanner on at this moment, and as they're kind of celebrating, we get a dark version of Nijigon come down. We got to see this card created very early on,
El
where
Dragon.
El Dragon, exactly. So a card comes down, or the dragon rather comes down and steals the Philosopher's Stone that comes out of Gigas. And then they all run around and try to catch it, which in and of itself is very funny. That they're just like trying to catch a chicken that's flying around. Lachesis finally catches it. Everyone's excited. Everyone's smiling at her. It's a real like, oh, this is all great, happy ending. And then suddenly, Tobias' shot rings out. She gets murdered here, because Garion is kind of yeah. I guess he sort of shoots her. I don't really know exactly what with, but she's dead.
It just seems like he has like a little laser beam. Like
Yeah,
it happens so quick where like a little laser shoots out of his face, and she just like stares and drops, or like whatever.
which really makes you wonder if he could be doing that the whole time. Why didn't he just kill Hodoro like at any moment? Like if you could just laser beam out of your face and just kill anything, just like, well, okay, Hodoro's dead. Guess we don't have this whole Kamen Rider thing to worry about anymore. But she gets taken down, and Garion says like one of the hardest things I've ever heard him say, where he was like, "Oh, the defective doll has been taken care of. I'll leave the remains for you guys to handle." Like, holy shit.
The
um,
way that he kills all of his fake children and his just absolute lack of care of any of it is really like the wildest thing.
yeah.
Like
Not only lack of care, a glee. He was so stoked to finally tell Atropos that he didn't give a shit about her. He was excited about it. He needed her to know. And this time he's just like he shoots her from across a field and then's like, you deal with the body. Like fucking insane. um yeah, dude is pure evil. We get the beautiful moment which we've already talked about, which is the she wanted to fall in
just
love.
want to
She
fall
tells
in, yeah.
him as her last dying breath, and we get the little scene of the two of them in the future, in a what could have been type of scenario.
I really kind of wish, even though it would have pissed me off even more, if she would have been like, all I ever wanted was one kiss, and he kissed her and then she died. Like
Oh
that would have been like the pure bullshit ending.
yes, I would
And
have
we
been
were so
very against
close.
that. Yeah, because at least for this one, I can I can do the headcanon thing I was talking about before. I'm just like, she wanted to find love. This is her example of it. But if it had just been kiss me now, please. That no, that's a big no from me. Yeah, the scene. So he veils her up, which is funny. But I really did the thing that hit me the most in all this death, which I was sad to see her die. I like her as a character a lot. But the part of it that hit me the most as I was watching it was when Spanner's carrying her away and he says like, "You're not a doll. You're one of us. You're human." Like, oh my god, that was good.
I want to clarify, even though it's dumb and funny, I didn't want her to die either. I obviously, like I said, I missed the death flag early, and I wasn't
Yep.
thinking about it. But like after they killed the little one last week, I never would have thought they would have killed a second one,
Yep.
especially the one that like we're going outside the show ish, and like the show's over now, so it doesn't really matter. But like she's been all over social media for like, hey, look, I sing this theme, I can sing the theme song. Hey, I put my own single out. Like I'm a famous singer. Hey,
Yeah.
I have magazines coming out now. Like at least from vague things, like she's the most popular one. Like she's the one that seems to be like the face of the show, out doing things. And like I would, if anything, I would have thought like the two older sisters would have bonded without one of them dying for like the for um Clotho to be like, okay, like yeah, I'll hang out with you and your friends.
Yeah.
Let's get dickhead out of here, kind of thing.
Yeah, I thought for sure too. I thought that the young one being gone would be the catalyst for Clotho turning, and then we'd have Lachesis, going full human to kind of support her, and that's the thing that maybe pushes her over the edge into being human is her sister is back and all that stuff. So yeah, I was shocked with her death. I didn't really even realize that she was probably dying until she caught the dragon. And that was like, oh, it's she, right now. Something's gonna happen and kill her. like it's very clear the fact that this episode is still continuing, and we're having like a happy-go-lucky moment that someone is dying, and then it's like, oh, okay, it's Lachesis. Here we go. But yeah, I liked her a lot. Sad to see her go, and yeah, she clearly is popular and is one of the people out there championing the show with the single. I did see that she tweeted like right as the episode aired, um, that like it was like a picture of her in the white dress from the flashback, and she was like, it's been nice like learning about Lachesis or whatever she worded it. Basically, it's like it's been fun portraying the character.
And the craziest thing too is like I think it was right when she got shot, or like right when Spanner grabbed her, if not at some point in her big speech. Like she even like sheds a tear, and like the whole thing is like they hammered home the she's a human so many different ways, like
Yeah.
real quick rapid fire. Uh, and I don't know what's reminded me, but I thought about it earlier because we talked about El Dragon. El Dragon's almost like El Dorado, and
Yep.
that's where like the city of gold was. I thought that was clever.
Yeah, that's true. Speaking of El Dorado, that's what we get to next. The kids are running up on a roof, and we see Gary in there, and Garion has something covered up with a sheet, and he also reveals to them that he, with all the Philosopher's Stone goodness, has created the El Dorado driver. So yeah, he loves El Dorado, and he henshins, and he's terrifying. He is this crazy gold monster of a rider. His mask has like gnarly teeth molded into it in a really crazy way. He's just he's wild to look at.
Yeah, like it's barring Spanners, it's probably the second best one. Like some of the chess pieces on the Golden Dragon Man here, a little bit extra for me. But like his helmet itself is probably the sickest helmet I think we've seen, possibly ever. Like it's literally just like a gold like devil dragon demon face thing.
Yeah. It's intense. It fits for how evil he is. Yeah. I was looking up his I think his rider name is Common Rider Dorado, it seems like. I wasn't sure what his actual like official name would be. Um oh no, maybe that's no, Dorado was went from the movie. So I don't know if he'll have the same name or not actually. Now that I'm googling that. Maybe he's El Dorado now or something like that. Um but yeah, he's also got so what is
he's he's Common Rider Eld. This is
Eld? Really?
ELD.
That's a
Because like I
weird.
looked up El Dragon on the commonrider.fandom.com site. El Dragon is a repli Kemi based on a dragon. It is a dark counterpart of Nijigan. It can transmute into the El Dragon repli Kemi card, allowing have Gillian whatever to become Common Rider Eld.
Eld. Okay. So yeah, it is different than the movie version.
Oh, and that's stupid because Eld is just El Dragon,
Eld.
but shortened.
Yeah, Eld Dragon and El Dorado. Eld. Yeah, I guess. He reminds me, I'm realizing now that I'm looking at the photo of him again. The helmet looks like well, it's a movie that was like a cult classic that had like a creepy bunny. Do you know what movie I'm
Donnie
talking about?
Darko?
Donnie Darko. It looks like the bunny from Donnie Darko. Like the ears, the droopy
No, I
ears.
got you. I get the reference immediately. Don't worry.
Yeah. Now that I am looking at him again, I see like the full suit for the first time here, like without the quick panning that the show does. The feet are a bit much for me. I don't know if you've seen like a full shot of the feet of Kamen Rider Eld so far, but he's got like big giant claw moldings on the top of his shoes. That's maybe a bit far. But the helmet I'm very here for.
And no one else can see this, but you can see us. This is the bunny from.
Let's see if I'm remembering it correctly. Yeah, that's exactly.
It's close enough. That's why I 100% got your vibe right.
Yeah.
Your
It's got the big scraggly teeth. It's got the bent over ears. Exactly. I don't know anything about that movie, by the way. I have no idea what Donnie Darko is about. I just
if
know that there's the
if
bunny
you
in it.
watch it, even if you watch it multiple times, like many people my age did in college, you probably still won't know what the movie's about.
Yeah. I missed that whole like get high and watch bad movies and then debate what they're about phase. That I just didn't go through that. So guess I guess I missed out on Donnie Darko.
But you can still watch S Darko, everyone's favorite follow up.
Like Darko,
S like S period
Space Darko.
Darko.
I
spacey.
did not know that there was a follow up that came out in 2009.
Yeah, so like Donald of movie title fame had a younger sister, Samantha.
Uh huh.
So the sequel is S. Darko because Samantha Darko.
Oh, okay. Are these horror movies? What type of film is this?
I'm gonna call it horror, but more like thriller horror and not like stabby horror.
Okay, all right. I'm into that. Looks very edgy now that I'm looking at pictures.
Oh, it is. Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal with a little bit of Jake Gyllenhaal. And the last thing, Toby, in the episode that is edgy as well is we get the reveal of what Kamen Rider Eld had been hiding under the sheet, and it is Professor Minato being turned to gold.
To a sick
He-
ass statue.
yeah, he's gonna look like a lot of money. I hadn't really noticed that he was missing there at the end until they revealed him. Then there he
Even when
is.
they revealed him, it didn't click who that's who it was. Because something about like, because he's in a weird, like rotoscoped gold color where he's
Yeah.
like half changed and half not. And like, I paused it now to look at him, but it happens in like a split second, and it didn't click who it was at all until they were like, "Oh, Minato, no."
I'm the one with face blindness, and I got it instantly, which is so rare for me. I don't know what it was that made me realize it was him, but yeah, maybe it was the hair because he's got the like kind of swoopy hair look.
I
But
wish Hodoro just would have been. I wish he would have revealed the statue, or almost statue, and Hodoro just would have went, "Dad," and then the episode just stopped.
I wanna grind this whole series to a halt just to figure out this dad thing. Yeah, so obviously we have to save Minato here in episode 50.
They don't have to save Minato. They will,
Minato can
but
die.
they don't have to.
So what are your thoughts on episode 49 here?
I don't know why we had to have more death. I get it. I think this episode set up fantastically for the end of the show that's coming here.
Yep.
I'm doing some fast math here real quick. Hold on. So the episodes are probably like 18 minutes of actual runtime, not counting the last time on Gotchard,
Yep.
the theme song, and the closer. So this is my list. In one episode next week, in 18 minutes, these are the things that are guaranteed to happen. So they have to have everyone fight
Yep. There'll
and
be
defeat
fights.
Yurion, whatever.
Yep.
Hodoro is going to go into a final form, I'm sure, because
Sure.
we're in the end thing here. So tied to those is obviously saving Minato, but that's going to be a conversation. And then he has to tell his mom at this point what he actually is.
Yeah, I hope we get the conversation with the mom for sure.
Even if it's 20 seconds, even if it's the rest of the dumb hand wavy shit they did the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Like him and mom have to have their sit down because one of the
They've
purest
hinted
parts
at it
of
twice
him is the him and mom connection
Yep.
of like. So along with that, the
Agreed.
other story beats that vaguely need to be covered, at least in my mind, they have to end it or do something in a way where the chemis are accepted or no one remembers chemis. But that's not going to be 15 seconds.
No one remembers chemis is not enough. I think they have to
Everyone has to love them.
Peaceful living. Yep.
Okay, so that's at least 2 or 3 minutes to even say Goldman dies and then everyone magically loves chemis. They're still going to have to show everyone loving chemis, and there's going to be those dumb cutscene things of like, hey, watch Nijigan cheer on the basketball team. That's his thing to do. Here's the eraser helping kids in school. Like,
oh my god, yes, I'm here for it.
That's minutes of this episode.
Injected into my veins.
Yeah, they still might address Hodoro's dad. I don't think they're going to.
I think that's over. I don't think they're going to. It's my guess, but maybe.
That still could be part of this. That's on my list.
Yep, that's a question.
I still think the 2 dead sisters might come back.
I think that could be on the bingo card for sure.
Okay, so if we're gonna hand wave that away, that's still a minute or two of conversation, and if that happens, then Spanner and Lachesis are gonna have to have their moment. Now that we've prefaced the show with, they need to have a moment.
Yep.
right?
If they bring her back, they have to do like a kiss or something. Like they have to have some sort of like
Hold
holding
hands,
hands. Yeah. They
like
have
when
to have
Geets
that
had the
moment.
final closing scene of like watching like Buffa have meat and eat like a cow and like all those things.
Exactly.
That has to be in there.
I'm not
So
saying that I want that to happen, but it would have to happen storyline wise. Yeah.
yeah. So along with that, like at some point now, we need to have Spanner completely finish his new swerve of like, hey, we're friends. Like I got your back. I'll be in this fight too.
Yep.
All that. Um, so along with all those chunks, with all the fights and everything, that is more minutes of this episode because it can't just do like one hit and defeat Golden Dragon here. It's going to
Nope.
be a fight. So that's cutting time out of the episode.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I know Spanner kind of dissolved the actual like Chemi Academy or the Alchemy Academy, but now if we're going to follow up with that, that needs to be addressed. Of like, are the kids restaffing it? Is Minato in charge of Spanner now? So that's more things.
That could be one line.
I guess so, but it still has to be addressed. I'm just saying
Yeah.
things that have to happen in
Yeah.
one 18-minute episode because we've hammered this all home into like one tiny episode now. So all that. I don't know if we're ever going to readdress the secret alchemy lab where the
Yeah.
Golden Dragon Man has his possibly ex-wife making chemies. Like that's still a place that's an open-ended part of this world.
My prediction is we don't hear about that anymore, but we should. Like they hinted at it in that episode that it'll be a bummer when it doesn't come back, I think.
And then I don't know if we're going to Daybreak anymore, but I feel like Daybreak isn't really closed. Because like I know we kind of said like, oh, it's Hodor in the future, but like that seems too easy. Like
but that was like it got closed in the movie, I think, with that we
okay.
haven't seen. So like I think the Daybreak stuff was just to set up that movie, and like they're not going to touch on that, the whole like future gotcha stuff for in this finale, because that specifically was planted just for the movie, I think.
Okay. So then as a general tie to all of that, I feel like any other season we watched so far, which hasn't been a ton, but we've watched a couple now. I feel like they always at least give 2 episodes for the closing. Like from the actual, I'm gonna use
Yeah.
the fancy word but say it wrong. The denouement part.
Don't know what that means.
It's like
I don't
it's the fancy
know
French
what
word.
word you're trying to say. I don't know it. I've never heard it. I'm not a French person.
The denouement, the final resolution of the intricacies of a plot, as of a drama or novel.
Yeah, I'm not doubting that it's a word and I'm not even doubting you're saying it correctly. I just don't know it. Okay, I learned something.
Denouement? I don't know, something like that. So usually, anyway, like episode 47/48, I feel like is usually the actual starting point of we are wrapping shit up now, and now we're going to like use these last 2 or 3 episodes as a buffer to wrap up all the stories. And even like X Age started 40. X Age started 2 ahead of the ending, and those drug out a little, but they closed up all the story things, and it wasn't all in one episode. So I feel like Gotchard's in a weird place where, like, I feel like we're still building because we just got the Golden Dragon form thing.
Yeah.
So now we're like, I feel like everything's just getting jammed. Like everything from this entire season has to be jammed into this last episode now. I feel like there's not enough time for that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what their pacing is like, because you're right, like because we saved the Spanner and the Kudo forms until like these 2 episodes, it's all jammed towards the end here. Where like, yeah, before we would have gotten those already, and then we'd be launching into, these are the ending things. They wrapped up some of the things that needed to happen to get towards the ending in those 2 episodes as well. So it wasn't just focused on Spanner and just focused on Kudo. But yeah, it feels like we're like, okay, now we've got a couple episodes to go, and we just have one. This show also did a thing that has been fun to watch, but I don't think did them any like favors now in cleaning up the last few episodes, where they introduced like 3 additional bad guys that any one of them could have been the ending bad guy. And then they had to kill all those people, right? Like we've spent the last few episodes taking out the 3 extra Abyssalisk Kings to leave just Garion, which has been fun. But like, we've had a lot of fights that like all could have been the end fight, and then now we haven't even we haven't even really fought Garion leading into the last episode, where you look at something like an X8 and you're having like basically the extended life bars of the boss, right? Like, oh, we're doing first form, and then it's gonna be a cliffhanger, and then we're gonna go into like, oh, the real boss version of the guy in the final episode.
Yeah,
So
and if you never watched us watch that, they went a little too far with fighting Kronos 3 times. Like
yeah, it's
they beat him, and then he's like, oh, no, we'll do it one more time, and that was too much. I just think Gotchard has too little, or they have too little time to
we'll see.
effectively. I mean, we'll see. That is
Yeah,
true.
because I think the Chrono stuff was way too far. Like by the end of the end Chrono last fight, like it feels like there's no threat there because it's like, well, we've already solved this, we've already handled this. He keeps coming back, so it's either going to be he's unbeatable or it's inevitable we're going to beat him again. Yeah, and I know any of these shows we're extending disbelief, or we're suspending our belief because obviously the Kamen Riders are going to win in the end, but it's that one just became pretty obvious that the Kamen Riders were going to win in the end. Um, but yeah, I'll be very interested to see whether they can squeeze all this in. I think we will get some stuff that feels pretty hand wavy. Like I think if they address the continued Alchemy Academy, it'll just be like a one line like you're in charge now, Spanner, or things are going to be different here in the Alchemy Union, something like that.
Oh yeah,
But I hope that the things I think the most that I want them to make sure they don't rush past is the Hodoro and his mom stuff, because I think that's a really touching moment. If done right, could really set a good tone for the episode. And like you said, for the character Hodoro, like it's so core to like his goodness as a person. I feel like it would feel really awful if they like short shrifted the mom story in this.
and they could, and for all intents and purposes, they could have. They could have completely left that alone, but instead of that, they had 2 separate conversations now, where
Yeah,
she was like, "Hey, honey, what are you up to? Like, I can tell you're going through some shit. Do you need help? Do you need this? Do you like whatever?" But if they didn't want to do something with it this late in the show, they should have never had him go back to the restaurant twice. Like,
agreed.
they, the key was either ignore all of it, or if you're going to bring up this new story beat in the last moments here, then you need to, like, the dad thing. I've vaguely accepted. I still don't know if I have, but like it's vaguely okay. But like with that, like you can't do that again now. I feel like you can't restart this like thing that you're never going to address with no time left, kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, trying to think if there's anything else that I like desperately need them to hit on the episode. I mean, obviously, like the things that need to happen, like the fights and stuff, are gonna be good. I want Garion to die a really horrible way. Like, it's just I want this bad guy to just to be punished for some reason.
My guess would be that it's going to be one of those things where like everyone does their part. Like Clotho's gonna like give him her crazy rage form 2 super roundhouse, and then Spanner's gonna kick a sword through him, and then Kudo's gonna do her little Twilight finisher. He's gonna be so powerful that he's just gonna get weakened, but take all 3 of them. And then Hodoro's going obviously to be the finisher and be like, "You can't mess with chemis," and then he's just gonna.
You can't mess with Camis.
But yeah, I
uh,
feel like at this point it's going to be like the crazy to use a secondary media, uh, to be very Kingdom Hearts in ending, where Hodor is going to say like, "All my friends are my power," and all of his friends are going to be the power to defeat the Golden Dragon.
oh yeah, I'm sure Hodoro's definitely powered up by his friends. All right, well, Toby, this show is in reverse, so let's jump into some emails now that we've talked about Kamen Rider. Um, We have an email address, cast@commonwritersucks.com. If you want to send emails over to us, cast@commonwritersucks.com. We've got a couple emails today. We are, yeah, we're going to try to get through them here pretty quick. But first email comes in from Jordan. Jordan wrote in recently to tell us some O's information. And Jordan says, "Hi guys, I'm back with more O's info for you. There are three things I want to talk about. Number one, the Greed's creation and dependence on core metals. Two, Kogami and his true connection to the king, the original O's. And three, some info on the full combos we've seen thus far. So, first off, the Greed. I'm sure you've noticed by now how the core metals affect their appearance. The Greed's appearance is directly tied to how many core metals they have inside their body. Each of them have 9 metals, 3 head, 3 torso, 3 legs. And when they lose a certain number of their metals, one of their armor parts on their bodies will disappear. When they only have one left, they'll revert to human form, experience a tremendous pain, and start leaking cell metals. And yeah, we actually just saw that, I think, happen in maybe the last episode or episode before last we watched, where um, the one person, I think the girl, is just like leaking out metals, and she's pure human at that point.
I didn't realize they were losing pieces of armor as they lost coins, but I will look for that going down the road since I'm sure more of them are going to die.
Yeah, it's like kind of subtle because it's like sometimes their armor looks a little bit more leathery, and then sometimes it looks a little more metallic. So it's like basically, are you wearing the armor or do you have the leather underneath it visible? Um, the Greeds were created. This is where things get crazy, Toby. The Greeds were created 800 years ago by the King's alchemist. Remind you, the King, Jordan is telling us, is the original Kamen Rider O's. So 800 years ago, the King's alchemist created the Greed. They created 6 sets of 10 core metals, the 6th which will be discussed in a future email. One metal was taken from each of the 5 sets so that only 9 would remain, creating desire in the metals to be whole again. That desire caused the creation of the Greed. Next, Kogami and the King. It was never stated in the show, but Kogami is actually a direct descendant of the king. This explains his obsession with desire and the power of the metals. The connection is also alluded to in the king's section of the O's novel. We're getting into the novelization now, where the king exclaimed, "Happy birthday," when the Greed were first created. Then, so we'll pause there. We'll talk about O's forms in a second. But this is some Lord of the Rings sounding shit now, Toby.
Sure, there's too many royalties and side things and
exactly. So I don't know if the whole king stuff is things we'll get to later in the show, or if that was like a specific like movie revelation. But that's wild. Like 800 years old, the original version, and then his descendants show up later. I'm googling to see if there is. Oh my god, I gotta show you this picture here. I found an image of what I assume is the king, and it is of all the things that I was expecting. Is that what you would think?
Beautiful.
Exactly.
It looks like I don't even know, like an advertisement for something. Like if you turn like a king chess piece into like a regal figure with a crazy beard.
Sure, yeah. I'm looking at appearances of the king, I guess. And apparently it's episode 1, episode 8, and episode 30.
So we saw him already? We saw him twice?
That's what that's what I'm seeing here. We'll have to do some more research here. But then also he was in the novel and the final stage, their stage show at the end, and then maybe a movie. So he seems like he's mostly novel and movie person. But episode 30 is titled "The King, the Panda, and the Flames of Memory." So
I feel like we would have made jokes about that if we saw that guy.
Me too. Yeah, me too. I don't think we've at least noticed that we've seen him so far. But anyway, back to Jordan's email. Jordan's telling us a bit about O's forms. Let's see. Let's see. I've lost my place in the email. I apologize. There we go. The full combos are achieved when you use a full set of corresponding core metals, as we know. They all have their own titles. Tato Ba we've seen is the multi combo. It's the most balanced of O's forms and is the only one that uses different colored metals. Gatakiri Ba is the strongest combo. Once again, from the O's novel, it is stated that the king used this form to invade neighboring countries all by himself with the clones, aka the branch shade.
Why the fuck? Why
Why
do
is
I
that even?
have to have goddamn books and novelizations in my
I
Kamen
don't
Rider?
know. I don't
That's the
know.
part that's really irritating me right now. That I don't see the need for.
It is also stated by Eiji that it's often difficult for him to revert to a single O's in order to de-transform. And finally, we have La Torata, which is titled as the Scorching Combo. The way the king used this form was by speeding into an enemy camp at night with the form speed and killing everyone before they can even react. All
You know,
right.
we're in this weird place with those. We're like Josh and I for weeks, months now have said like, man, this show really needs to like try to do something, and like I need story. I need to understand what the hell is happening here. And we go through all these things, and like I'm just missing all of this. I don't know what the hell is happening in the show. This is not helping. This is making it worse.
Yeah, it's starting to pick up now with where we're at because like we're getting interesting characters and we're learning about like ties characters have and stuff. But thus far, yeah, it has definitely felt like this where it's like we'll watch a show, we'll be like, okay, well, that happened, I guess, and then we'll have like people on our Discord or whatever being like, okay, so this greed is this and this greed is this, and then they have these medals and this happened when this happened.
And
And I
then the
was like,
king rode into the camp and he slaughtered all Humpty Dumpty's men, and no one saw because he was so fast because he was using cheetah.
and then I'm like, I don't even know the greed apart yet. Like, I don't know which is which, and did any of that happen in the show? It's all very confusing.
I know
Yeah,
Skater Boy, but I don't know which actual greed he is. And
no,
then the little girl who's the predator outfit. I know that one, but I don't
yeah,
know their names. Like I recognize their faces, but if you say
yeah,
like, "Oh, did you see when so and so did this?" I'd have no idea. I don't know names.
yeah. It's been a very slow burn so far. I haven't like not enjoyed my time with it, but like as far as like understanding what's happening and knowing the characters, it's been a very slow burn as they trickle out some of that information as things go. Like we really like I don't know. But I could complain about O's for a long time. We'll move on. And our last email comes in from Shade. Shade says, "Hello everyone. Our gotcha is slowly coming to an end. Only one more to go. Very sad that Toby won't be joining us in these final moments, but we'll make it work somehow."
I was really, really debating just pretending I didn't watch this episode and just letting you go for a while.
I thought that's what you were doing at first. I thought you were being like, "What's going on? What is this?" I thought you were doing the like, well, I didn't watch an episode.
No, I
uh,
decided better.
Thank you. Shade says, "First up, the Baton Pass event has happened between Gotchard and Gav. So if you remember last time around, we watched that, and I'm like, what are they holding?"
What's a baton? I did remember
Well,
that. I didn't want to call you out in our sweet Discord at patreon.com/the Comment Writers. But I did post the picture of the past 6 baton passes, and it was like a cool moment to me of like it's like just a fun tradition of like, hey, look at these kids saying to like the next kid in their life, like, hey, like enjoy the next year of your life. It's actually kind of probably gonna be really cool, and you'll make people happy, and like little fun things like that.
yeah, when you think about it from an actor perspective, it's like, well, and think about this too, like you're going from probably like relative obscurity when you're cast in this role to like really like getting on the face of like kids toys and breakfast cereals, and like every elementary school kid probably knows your face, in Japan, like it is a very like interesting life changing thing that the Baton Pass represents too. Not just like, it's a fun new TV show. It's like, oh, hey, welcome. This is gonna change your life. I just went through this. Enjoy. So yeah, I agree. It's a fun thing they do. I'm glad they do it.
Like real
And then
quick,
we,
like looking at Hotaro's actors acting resume,
huh,
his first short was Kamen Rider Geats, Four Aces, and the Black Fox. And then he was like an episode of a TV show, an episode of a TV show, and then just Kamen Rider. I just all Gotchard past then. uh Kudo was basically just Kudo the whole time for all of her acting, and then same for Spanner. So I granted they're all, what we say, they're like 18, 19, 20,
Yeah,
around there.
young
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
It's like they're all, I mean, they're all brand new, but like they're all starting here. So especially with like Geets passing it off to Hodoro, it's like, hey dude, this is your first real acting gig.
Yeah.
Like, have at it, bud. Like, this is gonna be cool. Hopefully, like, life goes expands greatly for you past this, but like it's a really like a weird thing, or like a cool weird thing.
Yeah. It makes my old man heart warm. Like it definitely is like hitting a lot of the like dad vibes for sure. Like when you watch these of like especially Hodoro's actor from the like he's still young, but like the super young, hasn't done anything, very like, bright-eyed like kid that he was at the very beginning. And then yeah, like growing into a very good actor, and like clearly you can even tell from the show how much this guy has matured, I guess, in the span of a year. Yeah, that definitely is like, oh, that's very sweet. um Shade goes on to tell us that the Kamen Rider Reiwa Gorgeous Sports Day videos have been released.
The
So
Olympic
there's
shit,
a
right?
yeah, the Olympic stuff. Yeah, there's a boys one and a girls one. I watched the boys one. It's about like 7 minutes long. Um, and as Shade points out, they actually subtitled it in English. So like official Toei English subtitles on this random YouTube video, which is very strange. But they didn't subtitle the girls' video, is was what Shade is telling us, which is very also like Toei to do half of the job. I found it to be a fun watch. I don't think that you would enjoy it. I will link it to you so you can watch it later. But it
If you're already
it,
telling me I'm not gonna like it, then you don't have to link it to me, because I'm probably not gonna watch it because I already know I won't like it.
do you remember the like it was the episode where it's like they're doing it's the subgroup that did the like re-edit of the episode where they changed all the words to like jokes about the show, basically. Do you
Oh
remember that?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's that level of humor or like worse, I guess. So like it's just sort of if the suit actor is like getting stuck in nets and like tripping over each other, and then there's like some kind of awkward commentary over top of it. So like I don't know. I think there's charm in it, but I don't know that it's charm that you would find.
I'm gonna say, know me well enough. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure if we're already pitching it this way, that's what's gonna be just not for me.
Yeah. But it's cool. Um I love that they did it. I love that it exists. And then Shade says that they're funny and hope they do more stuff like that. The suit actors can be really funny, and these weird side content is a good place for them to show off. I totally lost it at Kamen Rider Saber actually getting stuck in the net. Yeah, so part of the course, Saber gets legit stuck, and the other suit actors have to like run back and like try to like help him get unstuck from his pointy bits in the net. Um, it is cool to see because it's the suit actors getting to like ad lib, really, where most of the time they're very scripted, and they're very good at like portraying the character. So like Gotchard behaves differently than Geets does. You know what I mean? Like that you if you started doing Gotchard mannerisms in a Geets costume, that would look crazy. And that was like obviously I knew that, but the first time I'd really thought about that like so much of the suit actors' mannerisms go into the portrayal of the character. That's kind of cool. But anywho, thanks very much for sharing that stuff, Shade. Shade does link some things from the producer's blog, but we've gone pretty long here today, so maybe we'll save some of that and can touch on some things in our big final Gotchard episode next time around. So you have reached the beginning of the show now, Toby, in our flip flop crisscross episode.
Welcome to the Comment Writers, a Kamen Rider review podcast. Today we're going to talk about episode 49. I'm your host, Toby Tobes, and with me as always is Josh. How's it going, Josh?
Oh, it's going good. We'll see you all later. Bye. Have a good week.
I think I did that right? That's pretty accurate.
Pretty close, yeah.
After like 100 some episodes, I kind of remember how to do the intro.
Yeah. You tried to stab me in the back. You're trying to take over here.